The Deep Space Monitoring Station Viridian Watch floated silently in the void between star systems. Its crystal towers caught starlight and turned it into power for the massive listening arrays that stretched out like metal flowers. For 300 years, the station had watched the empty darkness of the galactic rim, recording the quiet songs of distant pulsars and the whispers of solar winds. Zeftar Nix had worked the night shift for 12 cycles now. His long, pointed ears could pick up sounds that other species missed. The Vorthon were known throughout the Galactic Council for their incredible hearing. While his colleagues slept in the station's comfortable quarters, Zeftar listened to the universe's endless chatter. Tonight felt different. A strange pattern kept appearing in the background noise. At first, he thought it was just another pulsar, but the rhythm was wrong. Too regular, too purposeful. Zeftar's thin fingers danced over the control panel. His large dark eyes focused on the scrolling data streams. The sound grew clearer as he filtered out the cosmic static. This wasn't natural. This was artificial. This was a signal. His breathing quickened. In all his years of listening to space, he had never heard anything like this. The signal came from the outer rim, from a region marked in red on all Council star charts. Those red zones meant only one thing: death worlds. The Council had learned long ago to avoid certain types of planets, worlds with crushing gravity, violent weather, and predators that hunted thinking beings. No civilized species could possibly evolve on such hellish places. The computer databases were clear about this. Life on death worlds either died quickly or became something terrible. But this signal was clearly made by intelligence. It contained mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and basic stellar coordinates. Someone out there was trying to communicate. Someone from a place where no one should be able to survive, let alone build technology. Zeftar activated the emergency communication system. The soft chimes echoed through the station's corridors, waking the other crew members. Within minutes, the small command center filled with beings from across the galaxy. Dr. Kelvis arrived first. The elderly scientist's forearms moved in nervous gestures as she read the data. Her species, the Thren, were natural scholars. They had studied theoretical evolution for centuries, creating models of how life might develop on hostile worlds. But those were just thought experiments. No one expected to actually find such creatures. "This is impossible," Dr. Kelvis muttered, her voice carrying the musical tone of her people. "The mathematical progression is too sophisticated. The stellar cartography shows knowledge of hyperspace physics, but the source..." She paused, checking the coordinates again. "The source is from Sector 847 Null. That's marked as a Class 5 Death World zone." Admiral Thessera entered the command center with her usual calm grace. The Alani leader's blue skin shimmered in the soft light, and her large, gentle eyes took in the scene. She had commanded peaceful exploration fleets for over 2 centuries. Her species had never known war, never needed weapons, never faced anything more dangerous than a computer malfunction or a solar flare. "Report," she said simply. Zeftar played the cleaned-up signal. The room filled with a series of beeps, tones, and mathematical progressions. It was clearly artificial, clearly intelligent, and clearly coming from somewhere no one should be alive. "How certain are we of the source location?" Admiral Thessara asked. 3 different sensor arrays confirm it," Zeftar replied. "The signal is definitely coming from the Korvax system, right in the middle of the Death World quarantine zone." Dr. Kelvis pulled up her theoretical models on the main screen. If life could somehow evolve in such an environment, it would be different. The constant threats would shape everything about their development. They would need to be aggressive, territorial, and violent just to survive to adulthood. "But they're reaching out," Admiral Thessara pointed out. "This is clearly an attempt at peaceful communication, or a trap," whispered Communications Officer Yelm. The small, furry being rarely spoke up in meetings, but his species had strong survival instincts. "What if they learned about us by listening to our signals? What if they want to find out where the peaceful species live? The room grew quiet. Everyone knew the history lessons. Long ago, before the council formed, there had been conflicts between species. Nothing like the theoretical warfare that Deathworld evolution might produce, but still unpleasant. Those dark times ended when civilization learned to solve problems, with discussion, trade, and compromise. But what if these new beings didn't understand compromise? What if their hostile world had taught them only violence? "We have to respond," Dr. Kelvis said finally. "This is the greatest scientific discovery in council history. We can't ignore first contact with a new species just because we're afraid. We can't risk the safety of 800 billion council citizens either." Admiral Thessara replied, "If these beings are as dangerous as their world suggests, contact could be catastrophic." Zeftar listened to the debate while continuing to monitor the signal. It was getting stronger, not louder but more complex. The mathematical sequences were becoming more advanced. The stellar coordinates were getting more detailed. Whatever was sending this signal was learning from their lack of response. "Admiral," Zeftar said quietly, "the signal is changing. It's starting to include data about other star systems inside council space." The room went silent. Everyone stared at the displays as new information scrolled past. The signal now contained accurate maps of council trade routes, population centers, and resource locations. This wasn't a primitive species making first contact. This was someone who had been watching them for a long time. "They already know about us," Admiral Thessara realized. "They've been listening to our communications, learning our languages, studying our civilization." Then why send the signal now? Dr. Kelvis wondered. Zeftar enhanced the audio one more time. Buried deep in the mathematical progressions was something new, a pattern that sounded almost like distress, like a cry for help. "I think," Zeftar said slowly, "they're not trying to threaten us. I think they're asking for help." Admiral Thessara made the decision that would change the galaxy forever. Prepare a response signal. Mathematical greeting protocols only. No location data, no technology specifications. If they're truly in distress, we'll offer peaceful assistance, but we prepare for any possibility. The response went out 6 hours later, sent on a tight beam toward the Korvax system. It contained basic mathematical concepts, scientific constants, and a simple message of peaceful intent. The universal greeting that the Council had prepared for exactly this situation. The answer came back in less than 2 days. It should have taken weeks for any signal to cross that distance, even at light speed, but their response arrived using some kind of instantaneous communication technology that Council science couldn't explain. The message was simple and terrifying. "Thank you for responding. We are coming to meet you. Please do not be afraid." 3 days later, long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures moving toward Council space. Not one ship, but dozens, all traveling faster than anything in the Council fleet, all coming from the Deathworld quarantine zone. Admiral Thessara gave the order to evacuate Viridian Watch and establish a defensive perimeter with the closest Council ships. She didn't know if the approaching fleet came in peace or war, but she knew that everything was about to change. In the depths of space, the Deathworlder fleet approached alien domains, carrying with them technologies born from necessity, tactics learned through survival, and desperate hope that they had finally found allies in their fight against an enemy too terrible to face alone. The Council fleet that met the approaching Deathworlder ships was the largest peaceful gathering in galactic history. 17 different species had sent their finest vessels to witness first contact. The ships formed a perfect circle in empty space, their hulls gleaming with decorative metals and artistic designs that showed their builders had never needed to worry about combat damage. Admiral Thessara stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Harmony's Dawn. The ship was a masterwork of Ilani engineering, with crystal observation decks and gardens growing in the zero-gravity sections. Every surface was designed for beauty and comfort, because no one had ever imagined needing armor or weapons. "Incoming vessels detected," announced Navigation Officer Torv. His thick, rocky skin showed his people came from a heavy gravity world, but even their planet had been peaceful. Distance, 1 million kilometers and closing. The main viewing screen filled with dots of light, As they grew closer, their true size became clear. These were not the elegant artistic vessels of council space. These were machines built for war. The lead ship was over 3 kilometers long, its hull dark gray metal covered in angular surfaces that seemed designed to deflect energy beams. Instead of observation decks and gardens, it bristled with objects that could only be weapons. Dozens of them. Hundreds of them. "Sweet ancestors," whispered Dr. Kelvis. "Look at the armor plating. Look at those. Those must be weapon systems. How do they even move with all that mass?" Behind the lead ship came more vessels, each one different but all sharing the same brutal design philosophy. They were built to take damage and keep fighting. They were built by people who expected their ships to be shot at. "They're slowing down," reported Navigation Officer Torv. "Coming to a full stop at 200,000 kilometers. They're maintaining battle formation." Admiral Thessara felt her stomach twist. Battle formation. The Council had studied ancient military tactics as historical curiosities, but seeing them in real life was terrifying. The Deathworlder ships had positioned themselves to protect each other and to have clear firing lines on every Council vessel. "Incoming communication," announced Zeftar from his communication station. "They're using our standard first contact protocols, but the signal is incredibly strong, much more powerful than necessary." "Put it through," Admiral Thessara ordered. The screen flickered and showed the interior of the alien ship. The first thing everyone noticed was how dark it was. The Council ships were bright and cheerful, filled with soft lighting and peaceful colors. This place looked like the inside of a weapon. The second thing they noticed was the being standing in the center of the screen. It was shorter than most Council species, but broader. Its skin was tan-colored and covered in tiny scars. Its eyes were small and set deep under heavy ridges of bone. Its mouth was full of pointed teeth that could only be used for tearing meat. This was clearly a predator species. But strangest of all, it smiled when it saw them. Despite its fearsome appearance, the being's expression was friendly and relieved. "Greetings," it said in perfectly accented galactic standard. "I am Colonel Sarah Martinez, representing the surviving human fleet. We come seeking allies, not conquest. Please, we need to talk." Admiral Thessara stepped forward. "I am Admiral Thessara of the Galactic Council. Your ships appear to be heavily armed. Your formation suggests preparation for battle. How can we believe your peaceful intentions?" The human, Sarah Martinez, looked confused. "Our formation? We're in standard escort protection. We thought you might have hostile forces in the area. And of course our ships are armed. How else would we protect ourselves during travel?" "Protect yourselves from what?" Dr. Kelvis asked. "Sarah." Martinez stared at her for a long moment. "From anything? Pirates, raiders, hostile fauna, solar storms, equipment failures that might require emergency mining operations, unexpected gravitational anomalies." She paused. "What do you protect yourselves from?" "We negotiate with other species. We trade. We avoid dangerous areas," Admiral Thessara said. "But what if negotiation fails? What if there's nothing to trade? What if the dangerous areas spread?" Sarah Martinez asked. Then her expression changed. Oh no. You've never had to fight for survival, have you? Your species never learned warfare." The Bridge of the Harmony's dawn went silent. Warfare was a concept from ancient history, something that happened before civilization. "Colonel Martinez," Admiral Thessara said carefully, "your species developed on what we classify as a death world. We assumed this made you naturally aggressive. Are you telling us you learned warfare out of necessity?" Sarah Martinez laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Aggressive? Admiral, we're probably the most cooperative species you'll ever meet. We had to be. On Earth, everything was trying to kill us. The weather, the animals, the plants, even tiny organisms we couldn't see. The only way humans survived was by working together, sharing resources and protecting each other." She gestured to something off-screen, and the view expanded to show her bridge crew. Admiral Thessara was shocked to see dozens of different human variants working together smoothly. Different skin colors, different facial features, different body types, all functioning as one unit. But we also learned that sometimes cooperation isn't enough. Sometimes you face enemies that can't be reasoned with, can't be bought off, can't be avoided. Sometimes you have to fight or everything you love dies. What enemies? Dr. Kelvis asked. What could be so terrible that your entire species learned warfare? Sarah Martinez's expression grew dark. We call them the Devourers. They destroyed our homeworld 6 months ago. They consumed 17 of our colonies. They turned living planets into empty rocks, and they're heading this way. The communication screen shifted to show sensor readings. The data was terrifying. Massive objects, each the size of a small moon, moving through space at impossible speeds. The energy signatures suggested technology far beyond even Council capabilities. They don't communicate. They don't negotiate. They don't seem to want anything except to destroy all organic life. We tried everything. Diplomacy, gifts, even surrender. Nothing worked. They just kept killing. Admiral Thessara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. How many of your people survived? These ships carry about 12 million humans out of a population of 60 billion. Sarah Martinez's voice stayed steady, but her eyes showed the pain. We're all that's left. We've been running and fighting for months, trying to find somewhere safe. When we picked up your signals, we hoped maybe we could find allies who could help us stop them. Stop them? Repeated Admiral Thessara. You want to fight these Devourers? We have to. They won't stop with human space. They're moving toward the galactic center, consuming everything in their path. Your Council space is directly in their route. Dr. Kelvis was studying the sensor data with growing alarm. These energy readings, if they're accurate, these Devourer machines could destroy entire star systems. Our ships aren't built for combat. Our planets have no defenses. That's why we need to work together, Sarah Martinez said. Humans know how to fight, but your technology is centuries ahead of ours. Your manufacturing capabilities are incredible. Your coordination between species is something we never achieved. Together we might have a chance. And if we refuse? Admiral Thessara asked quietly. Sarah Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Then you'll face them alone when they arrive, in about 8 months. And they will arrive. They follow the same routes that radio signals travel, hunting for sources of organized intelligence. The bridge fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. The Council's peaceful radio broadcasts, their trade communications, their cultural exchanges, all of it had been creating a trail leading the Devourers straight to their worlds. We need to contact the full Council immediately, Admiral Thessara decided. This is beyond any single fleet's authority to decide. Understood, Sarah Martinez nodded. But Admiral, please hurry. Every day we debate is another day the Devourers get closer to your worlds. And when they arrive, talking won't save anyone. The communication ended, leaving the Council fleet alone with the most important decision in galactic history. In the distance, the human warships waited patiently, their weapons powered down but ready, their crews prepared for either alliance or rejection. Admiral Thessara looked at the peaceful ships of her fleet and wondered if any of them would survive the coming storm. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened on the neutral station Wisdom's Heart 3 days later. Representatives from all 847 member worlds gathered in the Great Assembly Hall, their different forms of life creating a rainbow of colors, shapes, and sizes. Never before had such a complete gathering been called for a single issue. Council Speaker Moraveth, whose species had guided galactic politics for over 1,000 years, called the session to order. Her crystalline form rang like a bell when she spoke, the sound carrying clearly through the vast chamber. We face an unprecedented situation, Speaker Moraveth announced. Contact with a species that claims knowledge of an approaching threat to all Council space. Admiral Thessara will present her report. The holographic display filled the center of the chamber with images of the human fleet. Gasps and worried sounds came from representatives who had never seen warships before. The angular, armored hulls looked alien and threatening compared to the artistic curves of Council vessels. These beings call themselves humans, Admiral Thessara began. They evolved on a Class 5 death world and developed a society based on warfare and survival. They claimed to be refugees from an enemy called the Devourers. The display showed the sensor readings of the massive machines approaching from the Galactic HFY. The numbers were staggering. Each Devourer construct massed more than the largest Council space stations and moved faster than any known technology should allow. Representative Korth of the Zilani raised one of his 6 arms. How do we know this isn't an elaborate deception? These humans arrive with the largest armed fleet in recorded history, then claim we need their protection from an invisible enemy. Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. Many representatives shared the same concern. The timing seemed too convenient. Dr. Kelvis stepped forward to address the council. Honored representatives, I've spent the last 3 days analyzing the data provided by the humans. The energy signatures of these Devourer machines are unlike anything in our databases, but they're consistent across multiple sensor readings. The destruction patterns match theoretical models of systematic planet harvesting. Theoretical models, scoffed Representative Yilan of the Korvash, based on data provided by the same species asking for our trust. Where is the independent verification? Admiral Thessara activated another display. We sent long-range probes toward the coordinates the humans provided. The results arrived this morning. The chamber fell silent as images appeared of dead solar systems, planets stripped down to bare rock, asteroids arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Space itself seemed cleaner, as if every trace of organic matter had been systematically removed. 17 star systems, exactly as the humans described. Admiral Thessara said quietly, "Whatever the Devourers are, they're real." Speaker Moraveth's crystal form dimmed as she processed this information. If this threat is genuine, what do the humans propose? The display changed to show Colonel Sarah Martinez standing in what appeared to be a meeting room aboard her ship. Unlike the dark, weapon-filled bridge from their first contact, this space looked almost normal. There were chairs, a table, even what might have been a water dispenser in the corner. Honored Council, Sarah Martinez began, we propose a joint defense initiative, human tactical knowledge combined with Council manufacturing and coordination capabilities. We believe this combination could create a defense network capable of stopping the Devourers. Representative Thex of the Mindari, whose species were master engineers, leaned forward. What exactly does this tactical knowledge involve? What methods of warfare do you propose to teach us? Sarah Martinez paused before answering. The basics would include weapons targeting, defensive formations, damage control procedures, and strategic resource allocation during combat conditions. The chamber erupted in worried voices. Combat conditions, resource allocation during warfare, these concepts were foreign to most Council species. You're asking us to abandon 8 centuries of peaceful civilization, declared Representative Voss of the Alterian Collective, to turn our society into something violent and militaristic. No, Sarah Martinez replied firmly. We're asking you to survive. The Devourers won't care about your peaceful intentions or your cultural achievements. They'll simply consume you and move on to the next target. Representative Korth stood again. But how do we know that learning warfare won't change us fundamentally? How do we know we won't become like these Devourers ourselves, spreading violence across the galaxy? Sarah Martinez was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised everyone. Because you're afraid of that possibility. The truly dangerous species are the ones who see violence as the first solution to every problem. You're discussing this, debating it, worrying about the moral implications. That tells me you'll use these tools responsibly. Dr. Kelvis accessed her portable data unit. I've been studying human social patterns from their transmitted cultural data. Despite developing in a hostile environment, their society shows remarkable stability. They have art, music, literature, complex moral systems. They're not mindless aggressors. But they are effective killers, pointed out Representative Yilan. Every piece of their technology, every aspect of their ship design, everything about them is optimized for warfare. Because that's what kept them alive, Sarah Martinez responded. On Earth, the choice was simple. Learn to fight or go extinct. We chose to fight. But we also chose to protect. to build, to create. Violence was our tool for survival, not our goal. Speaker Moraveth rang softly, calling for order. The council requires time to deliberate. Colonel Martinez, will your fleet remain in neutral space while we debate? Of course, but please understand, every day we spend talking is another day the Devourers get closer. Our deep space sensors show them moving through the outer rim systems. At their current speed, they'll reach the first council worlds in approximately 7 months. The holographic display shut off, leaving the council chamber in tense silence. Speaker Moraveth began the formal debate process, but everyone knew the real discussions would happen in smaller groups, behind closed doors. Over the next 2 days, representatives met in species clusters, trading alliances, and private chambers. The debate centered on a fundamental question: could a peaceful civilization learn warfare without losing its soul? The Alani delegation, led by Admiral Thessara, argued for cooperation. We've seen the evidence of the Devourer threat. We've analyzed human society and found them to be fundamentally cooperative, despite their military capabilities. The risk of learning warfare is smaller than the risk of extinction. The Korvash delegation disagreed. Introducing weapons technology and combat tactics into council space could destabilize our entire civilization. What happens after we defeat these Devourers? Do we simply forget everything we've learned? Do we trust the humans to destroy their own weapons? The Thren scientists offered a different perspective. Perhaps we can learn defensive tactics without becoming offensive. Focus on protection and survival rather than aggression and conquest. Dr. Kelvis spent hours presenting her analysis of human culture. Look at their art, she urged the various delegations. They write stories about peace, about cooperation, about protecting the innocent. Yes, they know how to fight, but they fight for the same values we hold dear. The debate might have continued for weeks, but it was interrupted by an emergency alert from the outer rim monitoring stations. Long-range sensors had detected acceleration in the Devourer fleet. The massive machines were moving faster now, cutting their estimated arrival time from 7 months to 4. Speaker Moraveth called for an immediate vote. The situation has changed. We no longer have the luxury of extended debate. All in favor of alliance with the human fleet? The vote was close. 441 in favor, 406 opposed. By the narrowest margin in council history, the galaxy's peaceful civilization chose to learn the arts of war. Colonel Sarah Martinez received the news aboard her flagship. She looked around at her bridge crew, humans who had lost their homes, their families, their entire civilization to the approaching enemy. Signal the council fleet, she ordered. Tell them we're honored by their trust, and tell them we're going to teach them everything we know about staying alive. The greatest military training program in galactic history was about to begin. The training began immediately at the massive shipyard complex orbiting Centerpoint, the Council's primary industrial world. What had once been used to build peaceful exploration vessels and artistic monuments now rang with the sounds of weapons, testing, and combat drills. Admiral Thessara stood in the observation deck watching her Alani crews attempt their first gunnery practice. Below, the elegant Harmony's Dawn had been fitted with human-designed weapon systems. The modifications looked wrong, like surgical scars on a work of art. Energy discharge in 3 seconds, announced the human instructor, Lieutenant Commander Chen. Remember, squeeze the trigger, don't pull, smooth, steady pressure. The Alani gunner, a young officer named Veltar, gripped the targeting controls with trembling hands. His large, gentle eyes were not made for lining up weapons fire. When the practice drone appeared on his screen, he hesitated. I can't, Veltar whispered. Even knowing it's just a machine, I can't make myself fire. Lieutenant Commander Chen moved beside him. Her scarred hands covered his on the controls. Think about what you're protecting, not what you're shooting at. Think about your family on the surface. Think about the children in the colony ships. Veltar closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and fired. The energy beam struck the practice drone dead center, destroying it instantly. He immediately began shaking. I felt satisfaction, he said, horrified. For just a moment I enjoyed destroying something. Admiral Thessara felt her stomach tighten. This was exactly what the Council had feared. Were they changing into something violent and cruel? Lieutenant Commander Chen sat down beside Veltar. That satisfaction you felt? That's not bloodlust. That's the relief of knowing you can protect the things you love. Every human feels it. It's not evil. It's necessary. Across the shipyard, similar scenes were playing out with every Council species. The rock-skinned Torv were learning damage control procedures, their natural strength making them excellent at emergency repairs. The insectoid Velcri discovered they were natural pilots, their compound eyes perfect for tracking multiple targets simultaneously. Dr. Kelvis worked with human engineers to adapt Council technology for warfare. The peaceful energy systems that powered their ships could be modified into devastating weapons. The industrial fabricators that built art and furniture could manufacture ammunition and armor. This feels wrong, she told Colonel Martinez during one of their planning sessions. We're taking everything beautiful about our civilization and turning it into tools for killing. You're taking tools that were only useful for one thing and making them useful for something else, Martinez corrected. Your fabrication technology can still build art and furniture. It can also build the weapons that will keep your artists and furniture makers alive. The first major test came when deep space sensors detected something unexpected. A small devourer. Scout unit had broken away from the main fleet and was approaching at incredible speed. It would reach the outer Council systems in just 3 weeks. This is it, Martinez announced to the assembled Council commanders. This scout will report back to the main fleet about our defenses. If we can stop it, we buy time and information. If we fail... Admiral Thessara looked at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy. The Devourer scout was the size of a Council space station, armed with energy weapons that could crack planets. Against it, they had a mixed fleet of hastily modified Council ships and the remaining human warships. The plan is simple, Martinez continued. The human ships will engage first, drawing the scouts' attention. Council ships will flank from multiple directions, using your superior speed and maneuverability. Remember your training, the battle. Group assembled at the edge of Council space. 20 human warships, their dark hulls battle-scarred but ready. 50 Council vessels, their artistic designs now bristling with weapon systems and armor plating. It was the strangest fleet in galactic history. Zeftar worked the communications station aboard the Harmony's Dawn, coordinating between ships whose crews had never fought together before. His sensitive hearing picked up the tension in every voice, the fear and determination mixing together. Devourer scout detected, reported Navigation Officer Torv. Distance 2 million kilometers and closing. It's huge. The enemy appeared on the main screen like a metallic moon. Its surface was covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Weapon ports opened along its hull like hungry mouths. Human ships, begin your attack run, ordered Colonel Martinez from her flagship. Council fleet moved to flanking positions. The human warships accelerated toward the Devourer scout, their weapons blazing. Energy beams and projectile rounds struck the alien construct, but seemed to have no effect. The geometric patterns on EU, its surface pulsed and return fire lanced out. The human ship Defiance took a direct hit. Its armor held, but Admiral Thessara could see the damage report scrolling across her tactical display. The human vessel was badly hurt but still fighting. Council ships, begin attack sequence, she ordered, her voice steady despite her fear. The Council fleet moved in perfect formation, their crews following procedures they'd practiced for weeks but never used in real combat. Energy beams from 50 different ships converged on the Devourer scout. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the geometric patterns on the enemy's hull flickered and dimmed. "We're getting through," shouted Dr. Kelvis from her science station. "The combined energy output is overwhelming its defensive systems." But the Devourer scout was adapting. Its return fire became more accurate, more focused. The Council ship Wisdom's Grace exploded in a ball of plasma. 40,000 crew members died in an instant. Admiral Thessara felt something change inside her. The grief and rage mixed with the satisfaction that Veltar had described. She wanted to hurt this thing that had killed her people, All ships, focus fire on the damaged section, she ordered. Coordinate your shots for maximum impact. The combined fleet poured everything they had into the Devourer scout. Human weapons and Council energy beams struck the same target point. Over and over, the alien construct's hull began to crack. Then suddenly it went dark. The geometric pattern stopped pulsing. The weapon ports closed. The massive construct drifted silently in space. Is it dead? Asked Veltar from his gunnery station. Colonel Martinez's voice came over the communication system. Negative. Devourer constructs don't die. They just go dormant. We have maybe an hour before it reactivates with new defenses adapted to our weapons. What do we do? Admiral Thessara asked. We take it apart while we can, Martinez replied. Salvage teams to the construct. We need to learn everything we can about their technology before the main fleet arrives. Over the next hour, mixed teams of humans and council members boarded the dormant Devourer scout. What they found inside changed everything. The construct wasn't just a weapon, it was a library. The geometric patterns on its hull were storage devices containing the histories of thousands of destroyed civilizations. Every species the Devourers had encountered, every world they had consumed, every piece of art and knowledge and culture, all of it was preserved in digital form. They're not just destroying civilizations, Dr. Kelvis realized as she studied the data streams. They're collecting them, storing them. But why? The answer came from deep inside the construct's core. A message in a language older than any known species. Preservation through integration. Chaos reduced to order. Organic inefficiency eliminated. Perfect storage achieved. Colonel Martinez stared at the translation. They think they're saving us. They're destroying our bodies and worlds, but preserving our minds and cultures in digital form. To them, this is rescue. Admiral Thessara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. How do you fight an enemy that believes it's helping you? The same way you fight any enemy, Martinez replied. You prove them wrong. The scout construct suddenly pulsed with new energy. The salvage teams barely made it back to their ships before it reactivated with entirely new weapon systems and defenses. All ships retreat to minimum safe distance, Admiral Thessara ordered. We've learned what we came to learn. As the fleet withdrew, the Devourer scout resumed its course toward Council space. But now it would report back that the galaxy's civilizations were no longer helpless. They had learned to fight. The real war was about to begin. The main Devourer fleet arrived at the edge of Council space exactly when the humans predicted. 300 massive constructs, each one larger and more complex than the scout they had barely managed to defeat. They moved in perfect formation, consuming everything in their path as they advanced toward the galaxy's heart. The combined Council human defense fleet waited for them at the Meridian Gate, a natural choke point between star systems where the enemy would have to pass. 2 months of desperate preparation had transformed the peaceful shipyards into weapons factories. Every Council world contributed ships, crews, and resources to the largest military force in galactic history. Admiral Thessara stood on the bridge of her flagship, no longer the artistic harmony's dawn, but the heavily armored, defiant peace. The name had been chosen by her crew. They were still the same Ilani who valued harmony, but they had learned that sometimes peace required strength to defend it. Fleet status report, she requested. Navigation Officer Torv, his rock-like skin, now marked with battle scars from the scout encounter, read from his displays. 800 Council vessels ready for combat. 60 human warships operational. All crews have completed basic combat training. It had not been easy. 3 Council species had refused to participate, choosing to evacuate their worlds rather than learn warfare. Others had struggled with the psychological changes that combat training required. But the majority had adapted, discovering that the capacity for violence had always been within them. They had simply never needed to use it. Colonel Martinez appeared on the communication screen from her command ship. The human looked tired but determined. 2 months of intensive training and preparation had worn on everyone, but the humans bore an additional weight, the knowledge of what defeat meant. Admiral, Long-range sensors show the Devourer fleet will reach the Meridian Gate in 6 hours. This is our best chance to stop them before they reach populated systems. Dr. Kelvis looked up from her science station. The data from the Scout construct has been invaluable. We understand their adaptive defense systems now. The key is coordinated attacks using different energy frequencies. The battle plan was complex, requiring split-second timing between hundreds of ships crewed by dozens of different species. Human tactical expertise had been combined with council coordination abilities to create something neither could have achieved alone. Zeftar monitored the communication channels, his sensitive hearing picking up the nervous chatter from ships throughout the fleet. Ilani crews sang traditional harmony songs to calm their nerves. Torv engineering teams recited mathematical equations. Human crews told jokes and shared stories about their lost homeworld. Devourer fleet detected at system boundary, announced the sensor operator. They're already adapting. Hull configurations are changing based on our scout engagement data. On the main screen, the approaching enemy was a sight that would have terrified the old council. Hundreds of geometric constructs, each one unique, each one designed to counter the specific weapons and tactics used against their scout. They had learned from the previous battle and evolved accordingly. "This is it," Admiral Thessara announced to the entire fleet. "Remember your training, remember what you're fighting for. All ships assume attack positions." The combined fleet spread out in a complex three-dimensional formation that would have been impossible for any single species to coordinate. Human warships took point positions, their heavy armor and weapons designed to absorb the initial enemy response. Council ships formed layered support groups, their speed and precision allowing for rapid repositioning. Enemy fleet entering weapon. "Range in 30 seconds, reported Navigation Officer Torv. Admiral Thessara took a deep breath. 6 months ago, she had commanded peaceful exploration vessels. Now she was about to lead the largest military engagement in galactic history. "All ships," she announced, "engage the enemy." The battle began. With a coordinated strike from every human warship simultaneously, energy beams, projectile weapons, and exotic matter disruptors all fired at once, targeting the lead Devourer constructs. The enemy formation flickered as defensive systems activated. Then the Council ships joined the attack. Hundreds of different energy frequencies struck the Devourers from dozens of angles. The combined assault was unlike anything the enemy had encountered before. Not the focused aggression of a single species, but the coordinated effort of an entire civilization. Several Devourer constructs went dark immediately, their adaptive systems overwhelmed by the variety of attacks. But the others learned quickly, their hulls shifting and changing to deflect the incoming fire. "They're adapting faster than expected," Dr. Kelvis reported. "Defensive efficiency increasing by 12% every minute." "Execute Formation 7. Ordered Colonel Martinez. "All ships, random frequency rotation." The fleet began a complex dance, each ship constantly changing its weapon frequencies and attack angles. It was chaos, but controlled chaos, the kind of tactical flexibility that only came from species. Working together, each contributing their unique abilities to the whole. The Valkyrie pilots with their compound eyes could track multiple targets simultaneously while performing impossible maneuvers. The Thren engineers kept the weapon systems operating at peak efficiency, despite the constant frequency changes. The human tacticians coordinated the overall battle plan, while adapting to changing conditions. "Direct hit on primary target," shouted Veltar from his gunnery station. "Devourer Construct 7 is going critical." The explosion when the construct died lit up space like a new star. But even as they celebrated this victory, more enemy units were advancing, their defenses now adapted to the random frequency strategy. "Admiral," came an urgent voice from the communication system. "This is Captain Chen on the Resolute. We're reading massive energy buildup from the center of the enemy formation. They're preparing some kind of superweapon." On the tactical display, the Devourer fleet was reorganizing. The remaining constructs were linking together, forming a single massive structure that dwarfed anything previously seen. Energy readings spiked beyond measurement. "They're going to try to destroy the entire star system," realized Dr. Kelvis. "The energy buildup is sufficient to trigger a stellar cascade reaction." Admiral Thessara felt her mind racing. If the Devourers destroyed this star system, the gravitational shockwaves would affect neighboring systems as well. Billions of Council citizens would die even if the fleet escaped. "Colonel Martinez," she said, "do we have any way to stop that weapon?" "Only one," Martinez replied grimly. "Direct assault on the central core. It would require a ship to get through all their defenses and detonate inside their formation, a suicide mission." The bridge of the Defiant Peace fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Someone would have to sacrifice their ship and crew to save the galaxy. "I'll do it," Admiral Thessara said quietly. "The Defiant Peace has the strongest shields. We have the best chance of reaching the target." "Negative," came voices from across the fleet. Human ships, Ilani vessels, Torv engineering platforms. Every crew was volunteering for the mission. Zeftar looked up from his communication station. "Admiral, I'm receiving similar messages from every ship in the fleet. Everyone is volunteering." Admiral Thessara realized something in that moment. The Council species hadn't just learned warfare from the humans. They had learned sacrifice, the willingness to give everything to protect others. And the humans had learned something from the Council as well, that survival was meaningless without something worth surviving for. "All ships," she announced. "New plan. We do this together." The entire fleet turned toward the Devourer superweapon. 800 Council ships and 60 human warships, all accelerating at maximum speed toward an enemy that could destroy star systems. But as they charged toward certain death, something unexpected happened. The Devourer superweapon began to destabilize. The energy readings fluctuated wildly. "They can't handle it," Dr. Kelvis realized. "The weapon is too powerful for their adaptive systems to control. It's feeding back into their primary network." The massive enemy formation began to break apart as individual constructs tried to disconnect from the superweapon. The perfectly coordinated Devourer fleet was falling into chaos. "All ships, target the disconnecting units," ordered Colonel Martinez. "Don't let them regroup." The battle turned into a running fight as the Devourer constructs scattered, their perfect unity broken. Individual ships and small groups from the combined fleet pursued them, using the tactical flexibility they had learned to prevent the enemy from reforming. When the last Devourer construct went dark, the fleet found itself scattered across 3 star systems. The perfectly coordinated formation was gone, replaced by mixed groups of human and Council ships working together. Admiral Thessara looked at her tactical display. Her ship was flying alongside a human destroyer and a Valkyrie scout vessel. On the communication screen, she could see crews from all 3 ships sharing damage reports and coordinating repairs. "Colonel Martinez," she said, "I think we've won more than just a battle here." "Agreed, Admiral. The galaxy isn't the same place it was 6 months ago." 6 months later, the memorial service for the war was held on Centerpoint. Representatives from every Council world attended along.